Your Royal Highness, thank you so much for sitting down with us this morning. Please tell us what brings you to Harbin during these Asian Winter Games.
Well, obviously, Jordan is part of Asia, so it's always an honor to be here and to support the Olympic Council of Asia in the Winter Games. And we have an athlete that's actually competing here. So I've come to cheer on our athlete. Unfortunately, yesterday, when he was competing, I was doing a medal award ceremony that unfortunately coincided at the same time, so I didn't get to see him compete. But we've had a chance to be in touch. And it's always an honor to be back here in China and to be part of the Olympic Council of Asia's sports movement.
Now, is this the first Asian Winter Games you have attended, and what do you think of the preparations of the organizers, the facilities and venues here?
This isn't the first Winter Games. We were actually, I think the last Asian Games were in Hangzhou when we had the Summer Games. China really knows how to put on games, and they've, I think, had a great history. Whether I remember the first, I guess, major events, we'd had a number of the Summer Asian Games, but really Beijing 2008 was just amazing as a spectacle, the opening ceremony, the way it was organized, everything that was run. And we've seen it again. Unfortunately, I didn't make it to Beijing 2022, but China has demonstrated its love and passion for sports. The fact that after Beijing, it introduced 300 million people to winter sports, I think is an amazing achievement. And so to have this and to organize this event in such a short period of time as well, I think is very, very impressive. And it shows a commitment by the Chinese people and the Chinese authorities to the Olympic movement, and particularly also to winter sports.
Now, as we're talking about winter sports, I'd like to turn, of course, you are one of 7 candidates to succeed Thomas Bach as the next IOC president, with the vote coming up on March 20th, I believe. So beginning with winter sports, in October of 2023, Thomas Bach said that due to climate change, by 2040 or so, there will only be some 10 countries in the world capable of hosting the Winter Olympics. You've addressed this issue as part of your manifesto. How can this be dealt with? The future considerations, everything else you've talked about, perhaps decentralizing the IOC movement. How can this be done to accommodate regions to make sure that we can continue hosting at least the snow portion of the Winter Games?
Look, I think whether we like it or not, climate change is not a threat, it's here. We're seeing it. What we're seeing is harsher winters and harsher summers. You talk about some of the challenges with winter sports. Right now, take a look at the summer sports. With the requirement of that fixed period of time for the Summer Games between effectively from June to September, July, September, fewer and fewer countries are in a position to host it. I mean, even in Paris, which was the last Games, there were a few days where, the temperature was a serious problem. So, traditional countries, even in Europe, like Madrid or Rome or Athens, and even Paris and London, would now have a hard time doing it. So what I've recommended is to work with international federations. Is there some flexibility to be able to shift the dates and expand the dates so that more countries can be in a position to host it?
Well, in that same vein, you're one of 2 Asian candidates for IOC president. There has never been an Asian IOC president. From an administrative level, you've also talked about the importance of decentralizing the Olympic movement with its Eurocentric focus. Can you talk a little bit more about that and why that will be so important and valuable to Asian sports as they grow so rapidly?
I think, let's be honest, 60% of the world's population is in Asia. So we represent the majority of the world's population. And if you look at what we've been able to do, whether it's been even in hosting previous Olympic Games, whether it's Pyeongchang, we had Tokyo, we had Beijing, we have demonstrated our love and passion for sports in Asia. And Asia is probably the most diverse of the continents that exists. Yet we all come together, we all work together for sports and in the interests of sports and in honoring. I mean, we dream of winter, love Asia. These are all elements that I think that are very keen. And so we can contribute greatly to the Olympic movement, not just because in terms of size, but because of our passion. And we've demonstrated that we are committed to the Olympic movement and what we've been able to host.
I'd like to turn to esports. Now, esports have grown tremendously as well, lock in step too with the growth of Asian sports. I mean, they're here to stay. Whether detractors want to try and put them under or keep them under covers, they have emerged. At the Hangzhou Asian Games, the last edition, esports were an actual medal event. And of course, the IOC has recognized this growing popularity. Can you talk a little bit about esports, your opinion of them, and perhaps do you see a time in the future when esports could be a medal event within the regular Olympics?
I'm a gamer myself. I usually game on a daily basis. But my son is in charge of our Esports Federation and is looking at the Asian Esports Federation, working with it. And, I think I've included in manifesto, he said, you have an opportunity when looking at esports to collude and not collide. And I think that's, for me, it rung true to me, because there is an opportunity. There is a portion of the population that are not traditionally attracted to Olympic sports that I could potentially bring them in, both in terms of the gaming level, as well as being interested in the Olympic values. So I think there is a great opportunity that exists there, and we need to look at how we can work together and building that. And I think right now, I would question as to whether it would qualify for a medal event in terms of higher, faster, stronger, in terms of capability. But I don't rule it out in the future. I think if people really see what involves in getting and being able to build that capacity and capability to play, whether it's simulated sports or whether it's gaming, maybe it will be an Olympic sport in the future. But I think it's way too early to be able to predict that.
Well, finally, you have done so much for sport. You're the president of the Jordan Olympic Committee, of course. You've been an IOC member since 2010, an executive board member since 2019. You've been the chair of working groups. You've been part of international commissions. Can you tell us perhaps what achievement or initiatives you've been most proud of during those times?
In terms of contribution in the Olympic movement, I started out on the issue of gender equity when it was, in those days, called Women in Sports. And from there, actually, now for just over a decade, I've been spearheading the push for safeguarding. And I think, for me, what we've been able to achieve, and we're still in the early stages of that process, safeguarding for me is probably the thing I'm most proud of, because I think in the long term, safeguarding is important for the integrity of sports. I mean, no parent's going to want their children to participate in the sports if they're concerned about their safety, or that they're going to be abused, they could be harassed. And so we need to make sports a safe environment. Some of these terrific horror stories that we're hearing about what athletes have had to go through, breaks your heart. I can't change the past, but hopefully we're looking at putting processes and procedures in place that will prevent it from happening.
Well, Your Royal Highness, thank you so much. Must say, appreciate all that you do for sport and for society in general. Wish you all the best in the coming election.
Thank you very much.